Last week I told you about what I think is one of the most appalling breaches of our civil liberties in terms of freedom of speech and freedom of expression by an Australian government in my living memory. A case in point as to why we can never let misinformation laws to go through, because government simply cannot be trusted to not use censorship for political purposes. Thousands of people from all across Australia had bought tickets to go see Candace Owens, the very popular conservative podcaster and commentator from the US. Candace's views are controversial and always have been. She says a lot of stuff I don't agree with, and lately she's been going down rabbit holes which are frankly a little too identity politics leaning for my liking, regarding her criticism of Jewish people in history as some sort of collective racial, ethnic or religious group that all think the same way. I couldn't disagree with her more on that. But she's not some dangerous Nazi or a terrorist or a violent criminal. And she defended herself pretty strongly when I put that to her. Regardless, Albo's Immigration Minister Tony Burke has decided to use special powers intended only for use in the most extreme cases to unilaterally deny her a visa to enter our country and tour here. Make no mistake, this is an abuse of power for political reasons. Candace is right-wing. The government is left-wing, and that is why they are banning her. It's disgusting. Actually, it's worse than disgusting. It's very, very dangerous, and it sets a very bad precedent. Here's a recap on a bit of my conversation with Candace in episode 326 of The Other Side. My concern is that we're becoming less and less and less tolerant of different voices in Australia, and this idea that we can just keep people out who say things that we disagree with, especially when they're non-violent, reasonable, sensible people, as you are, it does concern me. Why are you in trouble, Candace? What have you said?
I'm not entirely sure. I never really am. You know, these firestorms come every so often. Obviously, the first one was when I stood up to the George Floyd narrative, when the media was trying to turn him into Jesus Christ, and they lied about the facts surrounding the case. They only showed one video, and they conveniently forgot to mention that this guy was on drugs. And I did this video, and it got 100 million views, and I went through a severe firestorm. And I think part of that is because the media gets very angry when you disrupt their narrative. And you know, you can think that the media just became this way, like just became authoritarian, and that's not accurate. This is just the first time that we're starting to see it and recognize it. You know, it's been going on like this for a very long time, but now with podcasting and independent voices, you know, it's very frustrating for them that when they do these sorts of things and they issue these hit campaigns, that a person can survive, you know?
Yeah, they hate podcasts and independent shows like this one because they can't control us. They forget that freedom and diversity of opinion, the only diversity that really matters, is why Australia is a prosperous and great country. Labor and the Greens and the lefts and the unions, they're all one thing. And I include the left and the authoritarians and the Liberal Party in that group too. They would like us all to be under their total control. Hence the misinformation and disinformation laws that Albo wants to shove through Parliament.
I've critiqued, God forbid, you critique Bibi Netanyahu and his actions. You will just meet the full swing of the mainstream media. And I have stood up to these lobbying groups. And like you saw, the Zionist Federation of America, who are effectively just trying to bully people into their perspectives. And their perspective is that you can't critique anything Bibi does. And as a Christian, I am not comfortable with the amount of child death that is happening in Palestine right now. I'm not comfortable with the things that the politicians are saying. They have no desire or plan to stop. And I do not think it's acceptable to believe that you have a right to kill every single woman and child as a response.
Which is not what's happening, and which I strongly disagree with. But there has been a lot of healthy debate over whether Israel's response has been measured enough. I might think it has, but others might not. And I want to hear their views and make up my own mind. I want to get a full picture with all the information. So I don't agree with Candace, but we can disagree. We don't have to lock her out of the country. I still want to hear her. I also happen to disagree with 90% of the rest of what she said. I happen to agree, rather, with 90% of the rest of what she says. And I have a lot of respect for her on a lot of things. So I want to hear her. Which is why it doesn't matter what your politics are, if you're on the right or you're on the left or whatever, you need to be loudly opposing this ban. Because if we let this precedent be set, then it will one day be used against your side of politics. This is not Albanese and Labor versus Candace, folks. It's Albanese and Labor versus the people. You, us. Our right to see, hear and think and say what we want to. Albo and Burke's ban isn't on Candace, it's on us. It's Big Daddy government treating us like children that they rule over instead of adults that they actually exist to serve. Saying that we aren't allowed to go see her. We aren't allowed to make our own minds up. It's Big Brother stuff and it's not okay. We must have the right to make our own minds up about what's right and what's wrong. It's our most fundamental freedom. We lose this, we've got no other freedom. Candace is fighting this ban legally, which can't be cheap, but good on her for doing that for us. She announced this week that her legal team has filed a challenge arguing that Minister Tony Burke's decision was made with clear bias and improper motivations. According to Ms Owens' legal representatives, Mr Burke displayed prejudice against her case from the outset, making public remarks that cast doubt on his impartiality long before a decision was made. Mr Burke also revealed private details of Ms Owens' application to the media, further calling into question his neutrality, a spokesman for Ms Owens' tour promoter said. This is about more than just Ms Owens. It's about ensuring our government officials are held to the highest standards of fairness and transparency. From the start, Mr Burke took a personal interest in this case, making disparaging public comments that suggest he was never prepared to give her application a fair and balanced assessment. The legal challenge contends that Burke's decision included numerous unsubstantiated allegations against Ms Owens and relied on biased and irrational conclusions. The legal team argues that Ms Owens meets Australia's character test. She does. And even if discretion were needed, these laws are not supposed to be used willy-nilly. They're really extreme laws that invest a lot of power in the immigration minister. These laws of discretion are only for extreme cases. It should never have been applied, according to the lawyers here, in her favour based on her exemplary record and as an international speaker who's consistently engaged with diverse audiences worldwide, and she's never incited any public discord. Now, you might have seen the Australian Zionist Federation was behind this ban. They wrote to Tony Burke, urging him not to allow Candace into the country. The group's leaders, Jeremy Liebler and Alon Kasuto, say they want the ban, but they don't represent the entire Jewish community in Australia. The Australian Jewish Association is more centre-right. It's the more centre-right Jewish organisation in Australia, and it's the fastest growing, I might point out. And they say, while of course they reject the comments made by Candace in the past, like I do, a ban in principle is anti-free speech and wrong, and it's against core Jewish values of human rights and civil liberties. So it would also be wise, I think, for the left-wing side of the Jewish community to realise that when you go around calling for bans of people who say bad things about you, you fuel the very conspiracy theories about inappropriate power and manipulation that you're trying to prevent. It's very, very dumb strategy from the left, especially taking on someone as popular and mainstream conservative as Candace Owens. I mean, attack her bad ideas, fine, but calling her to be banned? What fool came up with that strategic plan in the Australian Zionist Federation? Most of the support for Israel and the Jewish community in Australia is coming from the conservative and centre-right side of politics. The Australian Zionist Federation would do well to remember that. And it's very hard to fight against vile slurs about the Jewish community being political manipulators working behind the scenes to control politics and wield excessive clout. Slurs which I believe are false, offensive and wrong, when the left-wing side of the Jewish community in Australia actually are being political manipulators working behind the scenes to control politics and wield excessive clout. Please stop it. If you have a Netflix or other streaming media account from a global company and you're on holidays and log in from another country, you may have noticed that shows that are available in those other countries are different. That's because different media companies have different deals with different streaming services in different countries. Imagine being able to log into Netflix, though, as if you were in America, or maybe a country that speaks a language other than English that you speak, to access more shows, but you can do it all without leaving your couch here in Australia. Well, there is a way. Private Internet Access VPN is a virtual private network You download their app onto your phone, your TV, your computer, whatever you use, and it'll route your data through a different server location. Not only can you access more content, but a VPN keeps you safe and secure and your family safe so that you can't be tracked by prying eyes of big government and big corporations. And it will not massively slow down your internet speeds or make it harder to use your devices like some other VPNs do. Private Internet Access, PIA VPN. It's quick and easy to install, and once you've downloaded it, that is pretty much it. And the great news is if you sign up for PIA VPN, you are also helping the other side heaps and getting great value for money as well. And you can sign up using our special Other Side code for less than $3 a month. That's a whopping 83% off the normal price, and you'll get the first 4 months free. Just go to piavpn.com/otherside right now to get our special deal. That's piavpn.com/otherside. If you like that clip, there's more where that came from in our full show, The Other Side. You can watch it right here, the latest episode. And please subscribe to our channel by pressing the subscribe button right here or down here. And remember to click that notification bell too. It all helps. Join us and become part of The Other Side.